Sunday morning, April 11th, 2021. We're here for the Sunday morning spread. I'm Brian Noe from brightblessingstarot.com. Good to be with you for a few minutes this morning. We've got 4 cards here, again using the Thoth deck. And we'll be looking at the 4 dimensions of our life: physical, social or emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I've already cut and drawn the cards here, shuffled them good first. So we've got the Knight of Swords, lots of court cards in this one. Knight of Swords in the physical, material dimension of life. Knight of Discs in the social, emotional. Prince of Wands in the mental. And we've got a pip card, the Two of Swords in the spiritual dimension this morning. So knights in the Thoth deck, you will remember, are analogous to kings in the older decks. So if you're used to either a Marseille deck or a J.J. Swiss or a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, those would be kings. They are knights in the Thoth deck, but they still represent that sort of top of the court cards position. And the Knight of Swords here is really the card of unhesitating action. So you can see this this knight or king is both swords drawn, charging on into the fray with his wings on his back, propelling him along. And swords, the suit of the air, the suit of the mind. And so this card, if it had a keyword, would probably be, attack, or something along those lines. It's like, let's move forward. Come on, let's get on with it here. Onward into the fray. So showing up, so this would be like the energy of a windstorm. Showing up in the physical dimension, the material dimension as it does here, I would say that either would compel us to just go ahead and take action if you have been sort of hesitating on something in the physical or material realm, whether this is health, finances, or something else that manifests as part of the physical and material world. Get on with it. Let's charge right in. Or it could indicate that something is coming like a windstorm into that dimension of our lives, and that we need to be aware of that as things unfold this week. So that's the way I would read that one. And again, as always, if you have thoughts on these, if you are a reader and have thoughts on how you would read these cards, or if you are not a reader and you have questions or comments, I'd love to hear from you. You can either comment here on the video or over on the weblog at brightblessingstarot.com. Okay, social emotional dimension, we've got the Knight of Discs. And this, in the Thoth system, represents the fire of the earth. So this is the sort of energy that you would see, maybe in a volcano. Something that is incredible power and energy that is sort of pent up until it's not. Also represents the sort of energy of, and I've said this before, of plants that are growing, particularly like oak trees, that sort of thing. Something that is, the energy is moving slowly and almost imperceptibly, but it's so inevitable, and once it is expressed, it is huge. So in this position in the social, emotional dimension of our lives, that card to me, again, either means let's take it slow, let's get a good sense of our own power, let's get grounded in the coming days. Let's make sure that we're tapping into this vast store of untapped energy. Or it could also mean that we're going to be encountering that sort of thing. So if we're in the social realm, we may be running into somebody like this who is who may seem dull on the surface, who may seem maybe even slow-witted, but is very powerful. And so we need to think about how we would deal with that, or how we would want to deal with that if we run into such a person. But things are not always what they appear to be on the surface. So remember that you know, that hot, you know, molten lava that's moving around underneath the surface, you know, when it erupts, it's a thing of great majesty, but also can be very powerful, very destructive in some cases. So that's kind of my thoughts on that one. Okay, Prince of Wands up here in the mental dimension. This prince is, so each of these court cards, it's kind of a little hard to explain all of this shortly, but for instance, the swords, because they represent the air, knights represent fire. So this card would be fire of air. So remember when I talked about a windstorm? This would be fire of earth. The princes of a suit represent air. And so this one is air of fire. So we might think of that one as a firestorm. I think of this prince as, you know, maybe hasty energy as well. It reminds me of the Chariot card, except that we don't have the balance here at the bottom with the sphinxes. We've just got, you know, the one looks like a lion pulling the carriage forward. So I think in the mental realm, we might want to think of that as don't be too hasty. You know, we've got some fire energy there, you know, expressing passion, expressing, you know, a quest for meaning in our lives. And so we should pursue those things, but we should maybe be a little bit deliberate about it. I don't know. Or maybe it means charge right on ahead with that fiery wands energy there. So that's an interesting one. That's one I'm going to have to think about for a little while here. And I will be putting this up on the weblog later today as well. And I may have some additional comments that cross my mind at that point after another cup of coffee. Okay, over here in the spiritual dimension of our lives, we've got the Two of Swords. And Crowley has this one, the keyword peace. And so this is the peace that comes after a struggle or a battle of some sort. And we can see the two swords crossed here with a blue rose in the center, which is just a lovely image from Lady Harris here. And these lights, rays of light coming from that rose, and these cool sort of winged shapes emanating out from it in the shape of a cross. This is such a beautiful card. In the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, this is the one that depicts a woman seated on a very, you know, solid, looks like a stone bench of some sort, blindfolded with the swords crossed in front of her. She's holding these massive swords, and they are crossed and in meeting in the center in front of her. And uh, that image, to me, early on, I thought of it as someone who was guarding their heart because the swords cross right in front of her heart. But I think also it represents a sort of um, mastery of one's own mind. So the sort of thing that we would get after quite a long time of meditation. Not in terms of a long session of meditation, but after we've been meditating for quite a while. Being able to go into a place that is very secure and where we experience the deepest parts of ourselves, um, and where we're basically untouchable. Uh, but that takes lots and lots of practice. These swords that she's holding in the Rider-Waite-Smith depiction are heavy, and yet she's absolutely still as she holds them there. So I would say in this position, in the spiritual dimension of our lives, it calls for that sort of thing. Let's seek the peace that is deep within us over these next few days, because we may need it to deal with these storms that might be coming, um, if that's what's going on here. Uh, but let's spend a little extra time in reflection, in meditation, in prayer, uh, whatever it is that gets you to that place that is deep and eternal and secure within you. Let's spend a little time doing that in the coming days. So I think that's how I would read these. Again, I may have more comments later on the weblog. I would love to hear from you. I hope that this finds you well and safe and in good spirits. And we will see you soon.